You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. In this show, we go beyond the campfire stories to bring you firsthand encounters from people who say they've seen something impossible, from backwoods trails and remote mountain haulers to quiet farms and crowded highways. The stories come from everywhere, and each one leaves us with more questions than answers. These are the voices of the people who've lived it, so settle in, because today you'll hear another account that just might change the way you see the woods forever. So stay with us. Before we get going, just a quick word to parents that are listening to this with younger children. This is an episode where there is a conversation about some relatively intense biological things. That being said, it might be one that you want to skip if you're not ready to have a pretty intense discussion on how things work with your children. Just heads up. Enjoy, guys. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to Rebecca today. Rebecca is a Reiki master, energy healer, mother, grandmother, and a very open-minded seeker of truths. And I was able to meet Rebecca and her husband actually at Sasquatch Summerfest in Oakridge, Oregon, just this July. So just a few months ago, even though it feels like more than a year ago, really, to be honest. But and it was great chatting to both you and your husband at the festival. And I was like, man, I really need to have Rebecca on the show. I can tell that her story is just so interesting, and I'd love it to be documented. So glad we were able to finally set this up, Rebecca, and to get you on the show. And yeah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I've got a lot going on today, so I'm just trying to slow down here because I've been so excited about this conversation and a little anxious and nervous. It's a subject that, unless you are open to it, it's not really talked about a lot out there. And because of who I am and the beautiful community that I belong to, I can have those conversations in small groups. But so I'm excited to share it in a bigger group in a wider way because of you. Was really excited to meet you at the Sasquatch Summerfest. That was a fun experience for both my husband and I. And the minute I saw you, someone pointed you out and said, there he is. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go talk to him. So yeah, I'm excited to be doing this too.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just to the side, but it's still at the point where I don't have a lot of my face out there. So a lot of people are like, oh, it's that guy? Okay, cool. Which is nice because I can be undercover sometimes a little bit at places, but that'll probably change eventually. But it is a weird kind of place to live in. But Rebecca, I'd love to hear your story, and I know the listeners would love to hear it as well. Feel free to any info you need to give us first, or if you want to just launch right into it, feel free to do so.
Okay, perfect. I have some notes written down here because some things have happened more recently, but I'll just take you back to when I went from being a believer to a knower, in the sense that I was 17 when I had a dear friend of the family tell me his Sasquatch story, and his experience happened in California in the woods. He was a young boy out hunting with his dad. And this is someone that I find to be very credible. Definitely never knew him to try to pull my leg or anything. He's a fun guy. In fact, he's been called Sasquatch because he's such a big guy, and he has fun with it and will dress up and stuff. But at the time when he shared his story, that was the first experience at 17, hearing somebody say, oh, Sasquatches are real. I've seen when I had this experience. And not very many people, when he was young, believed him, being a young boy. Carrying that story forward, and I've never been one that if somebody shares something with me to say, yeah, if somebody says that something happened to them, who am I to say it didn't? And I find that odd in other people's personalities to say, yeah, that didn't happen, or that they're not real, if somebody is saying that something happened to them. So it was 2011, and my family and I were driving through the Redwoods. And I'm, again, very open-minded. I am an energy healer, Reiki master, as you'd mentioned. And doing Reiki, that puts you in the space of energy, working with energy. So I was starting a practice during that time of just stating to the universe, I'm open to see the magic, show me the magic in the day. And I would start my mornings out like that. So here we are in the Redwoods. We got up super early in the morning. I live in Vancouver, Washington. And so we started our drives probably at 3 in the morning, packed the kids up in the car, lots of snacks, all the fun. And we're heading to California, to Disneyland, and driving through the Redwoods to get there. So that's down 101. And I did write down the creek. I had to go and research and kind of look like, where were we? Because it's been so long back now, but it was, look really quick here. It was around the Eel Creek or Eel River next to, right outside of Humboldt, I believe it was. And so anyway, we're driving along this creek. And I'm awake. My son and youngest daughter, who was 4 at the time, and my son were sleeping, but my oldest daughter, who was 14, was awake. She was just behind me on the passenger side. And so out to the right of the car, we're driving along. I look down and we see this very large black, I couldn't see any detail other because we were higher up. This is lower below us on this river. Is this upright walking creature, very large, long strides, long arms. And so, of course, when you see something like that, you try to explain it away, and at the same time, you can't. Your brain tries to rationalize, what is it that I'm looking at? And so I didn't say anything. I was just looking at it as we drove by it. I tried straining to get a look and turning around in my seat. And I noticed that my daughter's doing the same thing. She's staring. Simultaneously, I turn to my husband and say, "Did you see that?" But at the same time, my daughter said, "What was that?" She was so shocked at what she was looking at. I think probably she even got a better look at it. But she, to this day, will tell you, and she's 28 now, will tell you, absolutely, we saw a Sasquatch. But when I turned to my husband and asked him, "Did you see that?" he said, "Sasquatch." That was the first thing out of his mouth. And he's a very down-to-earth, practical person, very skeptical at times, but he can become very open-minded when he sees it for himself, personality type. And he said, "Sasquatch." And so we were all just very wow. And I said, "Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. What was that?" It definitely looked like, what we've all been told Sasquatches can look like. Now, going back to the energy of that day and saying, I'm open to see the magic. You're in the Redwoods. It's a magical place anyway. It's beautiful. But I will say that, and I've said this before to others, and they've completely understood what I'm saying, the energy felt electric. It was, and the rest of the day, I felt different. It was just this energy, and I had a feeling that if we were to turn around and go back to try to see if it was there, it would not have been there. It was this overwhelming sense. And I've gotten these feelings before in the woods. We're allowing you to see us. When we are being seen, we are allowing you to see us. And so I had this overwhelming sense that it would not be there if we turned around. And my husband felt the same way. Like we were being allowed to see it for that moment. And I have felt that through the years now since I've seen this, that these people that are seeing them out there, they're being allowed to see them. It's, if they don't want to be seen, they won't be seen. But it's on purpose right now because there's a lot of talk in the spiritual communities that timelines are shifting, energy is shifting as we shift from the 3D to 5D. And this is on purpose to help wake us up. And what better way to wake up your mind to start educating yourself about that we are so much more than to see a Sasquatch. It is a really unreal experience. It's because we've been being told for so long that they're not real and they don't exist. To actually see one is spectacular, and it does change you. So yeah, that's when I became a knower. And during that time, I really wasn't looking into Sasquatch stuff. You read here and there as you're growing up things, or you hear things. And like I said, I'd heard a good friend tell me his experience, but that didn't make me dive into it. After seeing one, I would say I became definitely more open to wanting to know more about them, and my mind became more open to things. And so therefore, I think it was just more experiences, because it's like when you say you want to buy a car and then all of a sudden that car is everywhere. It was that kind of thing. I just all of a sudden started hearing people opening up and talking, or I would come across something. It wasn't until I would say towards the end of last year that I came across your podcast and Game On. I absolutely love, you're a game changer in this field as far as all of the different experiences that people have called in, and you're so open-minded to hear everything. It's been amazing to hear other people's experiences and to just validate what I have been feeling, and actually what I feel I've been being told by Sasquatch. So here we go. Since then, I have had some dreams, very strong, vivid dreams. I don't remember my dreams very well. So when I do, I pay attention because they're pretty potent. So I had a dream. Again, I'm in the Redwoods. We do that trip very often. And we took my mother-in-law and we stayed across from the Trees of Mystery. And so for the listeners that haven't been to the Redwoods, there's this beautiful place called the Trees of Mystery. You can take a sky train up over the Redwoods. There's lots of beautiful carvings in the trees, and it's just a fun place. And so my mother-in-law is from Cape Cod and was visiting, and we took her on that drive. And I wouldn't say at this time that Sasquatch was on my mind. We weren't out there looking. It was that experience is always there for me when we go back to the Redwoods, but as it would be for anybody. But it wasn't like we're going Sasquatch hunting. We were there to just show my mother-in-law a good time, and this was an experience, like a bucket list experience for her. So we stayed across from the Trees of Mystery in a motel, and that evening I had a dream that Sasquatch was standing outside of the window. And it was that kind of a dream where I'm in that room that we're staying in. I'm standing out the window looking at the woods behind me, and Sasquatch is standing and he's rocking back and forth behind a tree and I mind spoke to him. I didn't speak out loud. I told him, I can see you. You don't have to hide. And he fully stepped out from behind the tree. And he said, you're only going to see me because I'm letting you see me. And I said, I get that. I know that. And I said, so do you mind speak to humans only, or can you mind speak to other animals? And he said, we can mind speak to animals as well. And in the dream, I say he because it felt very much like a male Sasquatch. And he said that won't be my last encounter with him, that I'm only just on the brink of, not just me, but we as the human race are only just now discovering what these creatures are, these beings are. And I also felt the sense that Sasquatch was what they don't like being called Sasquatch, but that over Bigfoot, they prefer Sasquatch, that it almost feels like a disrespect to them to call them Bigfoot. So I made note of that. And that was that in the dream. It was like I woke up, I was like, that was really cool that I remembered that dream. And I told my husband I dreamt of Sasquatch. And there's all kinds of Sasquatch stuff in the Redwoods. At all the stops that you make, there are sweatshirts and carvings and all kinds of neat stuff. So then you write it off. It's because we're looking at Sasquatch stuff. But at the same time, the dream just felt very relevant. Tuck that back into this pocket of experiences that I'm having. And fast forward to more present day at the beginning of the year, I'm just going to share another dream that I had after now listening to podcasts and stuff and hearing people's experiences and knowing now that others have had dreams that are really potent and explain a lot. I have another dream that is very real, very vivid. I remembered every detail of it, and I was in this dream's a little bit more out there. It was just very bizarre, but I was in like a medical room, very sterile medical room, and there was a Sasquatch laying on the table, and I was observing. It was like remote viewing, if you will. where I was not participating in what was going on there. I was observing that this creature was being examined. And as they were examining the creature, they were examining every area of the body of this creature. And I, in my mind, spoke to this creature and said, "So are you male or female?" And this creature said, "We can be both." And I thought, oh, that's very interesting. And it said, "Yes, we can be male or female depending on the circumstance that we need to be for." So I thought, anyway, I just thought that was a very interesting thing. Again, it was a dream, but it was nonetheless, it stuck with me. And those are the two dreams that I've had. And let's see, we're going back now. After the Redwood experience in 2011, our family took a trip to the Oregon Vortex. Again, this was before I started listening to podcasts or hearing other people's experiences to validate what I was feeling. But we went to the Oregon Vortex. And again, for the listeners, if they haven't been there, the Oregon Vortex is it's a touristy place. It's very cool. I could not tell you right now. I should have written it down, and I apologize, but you can look up Oregon Vortex and find out where it's at. But basically, you drive out into this area and you're in the woods and you're in this, what they call a vortex, and they have set it up to where you pay to go in. And in this place, it is completely silent. You do not hear birds. Dogs will not come in. People's companion dogs will back and pull away, we were told by the tour guide. And in this Oregon Vortex, the gravity defy. It's really cool. And they have all different kinds of experiments to show you how gravity defies the laws. And you can stand in one side and be just as tall when you're standing up higher than the person below you. So I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Jeremiah, but it's a really cool experience to be there. And I remember being in the vortex and not hearing any sound, any birds, nothing when they're talking about that. And you just stop and listen. You're like, wow, it's true. We're in the middle of the woods and you do not hear a sound. You don't see bugs. It's a very interesting experience. And then driving out of there about a mile down the road, all of a sudden you hear the birds. So it's very surreal to be out in the middle of the woods and for no reason at all not have any sound out there other than that they say you're in a vortex. And so that really got me thinking about Sasquatch at the time. And it came on strong. It wasn't just like this is a theory of mine. It came on like this knowing, and it's hard to explain unless you've had that kind of experience. It was like, this is how they are coming in and out. They're coming through portals. And I had not heard this ever before. So to me, it was like, whoa, this is real. This is how they're coming in and out. They're coming through portals or vortexes. And I believe this theory to be true because I have really studied our bodies, the human body, the super physical, emotional body, how our body has chakras and vortexes within our body. And that is true about our environment. We have these vortexes all over the place, but this just happens to be one that was discovered and then made for people to come and experience it. But I believe that we have many out there that we don't know about. And these are vortexes that they're able to come through, because you start hearing people talk about that everything goes silent. Birds are silent, everything is quiet. And so I put that together with that, just listening to that. And I wrote a book, actually, I just released at the end of last year, called Magnetic Universe. And it speaks more on the subject of energy and our bodies and the energy in the world, and how this is not just woo-woo, this is science-backed facts that everything, our atoms are balls of light. So the theory on having now heard so many others talk about energy and Sasquatches with energy, I can get behind that theory more, knowing what I know and being who I am as a Reiki master. And the book is called Magnetic Universe, YOU, Magnetic Universe. It's on Amazon if anybody's interested and I'm not trying to sell it. I'm just, if anyone's interested in that, it's just a fun book about energy and frequency and how to protect yourself and your space and stuff working with energy. But after now listening to your podcasts and hearing others' experiences, I had a memory jog. And it was my first experience in Cape Cod back in 2002. I went to Cape Cod for the first time. And we were driving. It was late at night. The dark there, because the sky is just filled with stars. It's absolutely beautiful. It's not a city. It's not polluted by light. So when you're driving on certain areas, it gets really dark. And we were driving in my husband's neighborhood, the neighborhood he grew up in, which is set in the woods. My mother-in-law lives on a beautiful piece of property in Cape Cod. And his headlights swooped across this area where it was like a long driveway leading down to somebody's house. And their garbage cans, that's one thing I remember, is that the garbage cans were out. And I saw and literally said out loud, I didn't know better. So mind you, this is 2002. This is way before I saw the Sasquatch in the woods. But this memory did not come back to me until more recently. And I remember bringing it up to my husband. Do you remember back my first time in Cape Cod? I was 24. That I said I saw if I didn't know better, I think I saw a Sasquatch. And he goes, I do remember that. And I really, now knowing what I know, I think I did see a Sasquatch then, but it was so dark and it would be just a shadow. It wasn't the shadow of a creature, but it was a very tall figure hunched over, moving really quickly as our headlights swooped across out into the woods away from the car. And it was so fast, and just making that comment and laughing about it at 24 going, okay, my eyes are playing tricks on me. That was a trip. It looked like there was a Sasquatch running away from the car. We've since I brought it up again, we've talked about that. And because there's been times going back to Cape Cod through the years where I've had some interesting experiences on his property. And yeah, so going all over the place, and I apologize for that, but yeah, so I say that my first experience was in 2011 seeing a Sasquatch in the Redwoods, but I do believe that my first time seeing one was in 2002 in Cape Cod. So bringing you back to present day, at the beginning of this year in March, a group of my Reiki sisters, spiritual sisters, went on a beach retreat. And I have now been going down the rabbit hole of podcasts, and at this point, I'm obsessed with everything Sasquatch. I'm learning everything I can. I'm listening to all of your podcasts. I just think it's the coolest subject, and I'm absolutely loving it. I listen to a podcast every day on the way to work. And so at this point, I'm a little bit more open-minded to talk about it in my small spiritual community. And so I told the ladies when we got to the beach, this place we went to Long Beach, and behind us at the beach house that we're staying at, there's these beautiful woods covered in moss and trails and just absolutely gorgeous. And I said, this place feels squatchy. Which opened up the conversation, and another girl that came to the retreat absolutely believes and was like, it totally does. And so it was just fun, and it opened up for me to share my experience with them. And at the time going into this retreat, it was a 2-night stay. I had a bad knee. I had a bursitis on my right kneecap, and it would flare up occasionally. And so going into this weekend, it was a flared kneecap. I was in a lot of pain, trying to take my mind off it, and going to bed that evening, that first night, Friday night, my longtime girlfriend, best friend since we were 14, her and I shared a room upstairs. And we picked this room because it was away from everybody. It had its own bathroom, and we're sharing the room. And the house next door to us had a strobe light, or not a strobe light, but a sensory light that would come on if it had any, like a motion detector light, and it would light the room up. And the curtains in that room were not very dark. And so it was really annoying. And we were laughing, just making light of it. But like, I hope we can sleep tonight. I am a very light sleeper and I need the room pitch black. And so having this light come on because it was raining out. And so the rain was making this light come on over and over again. And I finally, as I'm falling asleep, I've got Sasquatch on my mind for some reason, probably because we're out there in this with the woods behind us and stuff. But I'm thinking about Sasquatch, which was interesting. I thought that was really interesting at the time too, that this was like really on my mind. And I said, if you're out there, and I had just listened to one of your podcasts where it was shared that one of the people that had an experience had a Sasquatch heal them, and they were out camping. I think they were out there to do some Sasquatching, and had a Sasquatch heal them, came into the camp at night, and that they left that camping experience with I think it was their leg that was healed. And so I'm sure if there's listeners out there, some will remember this podcast, and I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. So as I laid there, I thought, if this is true and you're out there and you're communicating with me through my dreams and I'm having these experiences with you, heal my knee. Just heal this knee. Take this pain away, because my knee at the time was just throbbing. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to fall asleep. My knee's throbbing. This light is flashing. It just keeps coming on and lighting up the room. So I finally fell asleep. And at some point in the night, I woke up, and as this light is coming on, I see the shadow of the only thing that I could describe it as a Sasquatch. It was this very large shoulders, really big head, move across the ceiling from left to right. At any given time, if something like this happened in a normal setting, this is not a normal setting, I would have freaked out and been wide awake. Instead, I said, Sasquatch, thank you, and went right back to sleep. Like, it did not even faze me. And I know I was awake. I know that I had come fully awake. And I will share with you right now that as I am talking, I am getting texts from the beach retreat group, this group that I was with, which is hilarious. I've not heard from this. It's a group text, and I haven't heard from this group text in a while. And they're texting me right now. So that just goes to show you how energy works. People feel stuff. So I had this experience and completely forgot about it. I woke up in the morning, my knee pain was completely gone, and that knee pain has not come back. And it was a nice large size lump. I would say it was probably the size of a walnut on my knee. That is completely gone and has been since that experience. But I did not remember right away. I didn't wake up and go, oh, to my friend, oh, I saw a Sasquatch shadow. No, it was, we got up, we are getting ready, we go downstairs, everyone's making breakfast, making coffee. And one of the girls said, I had a weird night's sleep, and it sounded like someone was walking around outside. And she was right below us, and she had a deck outside her bedroom. And she said that it sounded like something was walking around out there. And then someone else said they thought that they heard some movement in the house and thought someone had come down. And she's asking, did you girls come downstairs? And we were like, no. So that was all interesting, but that's what then jogged my memory that I had that experience. And I didn't share it right away with them because two of the girls I know very well and feel like I could tell them anything, but the other three girls I was just getting to know. I now know I can share anything with them, and they are total believers. But at the time, I did not open up and share right away. But throughout the weekend, as I got to know them better and we really opened up with each other and had some amazing experiences, I did share. I also forgot to mention that night when I said heal my knee, I also said, if you're out there, leave me a sign. And that's something I have gotten used to doing as I'm going out. My husband and I are always going out to the woods, to trails, we go up to St. Helens often, and we ask for signs to be left. So I said, if you are out there, heal my knee, leave me a sign out in the woods, because I planned on going for a morning walk. So we did that. I did end up sharing with my dear friend who had shared the room with me about the experience, and that I asked them to leave me a sign. So we're out on our walk, and sure enough, I came across a huge foot imprint, and I have a picture of that I can send you. And I don't know if there's an area that you post pictures, but anyway, but this was, I took some pictures of it. I was thrilled. I was like, I've never seen anything like this. This looks just like what I've seen other people take pictures of and show. And so I was really thrilled about that. And I will mention that during this time while we're out there, the woods were completely silent. I have video. You cannot hear a bird, a crow, a chipmunk, nothing. It is completely silent while we're out there. And so it was just an awesome walk, and I was thrilled. I've got this knee that is no longer hurting me. I've got proof. I've asked for proof, and what I feel to be proof is out there. So I'm thrilled. I'm actually like a child, and this kind of stuff does make me feel very childlike, because it is so unknown and it's magical to me. It just makes me feel like this is so amazing. I don't get the sense that they are dangerous. That doesn't mean that there aren't areas that they inhabit that they aren't dangerous, but I believe that the ones in the Northwest are more on the peaceful side. They really will not bug us or bother us unless we are doing something to hurt or bother them. But yeah, that was a really amazing experience. And actually, I will say that experience, because the first time seeing one, I wouldn't say that was life-changing for me. It just was more of an eye-opener and really made me like, okay, like I said, go from a believer to a knower. But this experience was life-changing for me, to have my knee, to ask for them to heal my knee and then have my knee healed. It was just amazing. And my husband and I then, about a week later, we went up and checked out a spot in dispersed camp spot in St. Helens, and there was snow on the ground still. So we knew we were going to be coming back in a week. And we went out there and checked it all out. Beautiful spot. And we said, if this spot's open when we come back up here, this is where we're camping, and had explored the whole area. And then a week later, went up there to camp. And again, I'm talking to them. I've heard from other people. They know our thoughts. They know when we're coming. They know when we're going to be there. Ask them to show us signs. And I'm not down outright saying, show yourself to me. I'm just saying, if you're out there, I would love to know that you're out here. Show us some signs. Leave us some signs that you're out here. So we get out there that weekend. And in the area where there was snow on the ground, it's this big, and mind you, this is not an area where a lot of people frequently go. It's pretty deep woods. It's at the base of St. Helens, and you have to drive back a ways to get to this area, and then walk in a ways actually to get to where. So it was the next morning. We had set up camp and everything, and the next morning we went on our morning walk, and we walked back to this area. And there was a stick right in the middle of this opening where there's no trees that a branch could have fallen and landed the way it did. But there was this stick sticking right out of the ground. And a week prior, this stick was not there. So that was interesting. We took pictures. We just thought these things were interesting. I'm not saying it's Sasquatch. I just, again, I'm very open-minded to these ideas. So we both thought, that's interesting. That wasn't there last week. And so we walked further in, and then we came to these stick structures that were very deliberately placed, almost looked like ruins, or the way that they were cut or broken and then placed just meticulously on top of each other to form shapes. And again, I have pictures of those I will send you. So that was, again, they were not there a week prior, and then here they are. Could a human have been out there and done this? Sure. But after asking for signs and knowing that others have had these experiences, for me, it was wow. Again, it was just that kid excited. I was extremely excited and grateful. And anytime that I have an experience like this, where it's like I ask and then I receive something, I put myself in a place of gratitude. I just say, thank you. Thank you for showing me. And again, because just like people, they want to be validated. And we as humans do not want to be told that what we have seen or what we've experienced didn't happen. We want to be validated in what we experience. And I think that this is so important, and why I appreciate you so much is that we need to normalize these kind of conversations and normalize validating people's feelings when they have an experience and not shut them down. I see that way too often in this field of research, is other people putting people that have had experiences down. And it's really a sad thing to see, but it's also just on the opposite side of that, more validating of people's experience, which is really cool. Yeah, let's see. When we were in Cape Cod, then just recently, we went to Cape Cod last month. We got to go and stay for 2 weeks. And while we're there, we do a lot of bike riding on the bike trails. And again, because I'm just now totally into it and very open-minded anytime I'm in the woods, there's a feeling that I think some of the listeners that have had these experiences will understand. There's just an energy in the air. There's a feeling in the air when you are near these creatures. And there was at one point in our bike ride where I'm riding along and I see some things, tree structure shapes, that the crosses, the A's, in this area that we go to that's very thick with woods on either side of the bike trail. And I'm, again, in my own head, I've got my music playing, and this bike ride's phenomenal. It's a beautiful day. And I just say, okay, if I'm actually seeing your structures and you're out here, give me a sign. And I hear a very loud thwop sound against a tree. And I was much further ahead of my husband at this point, and I had to stop. I stopped my bike and just sat there and listened, and I didn't hear anything more. And my husband came along, and I told him about the tree structures I had passed and stuff, and he says, point them out on the way back. And so on the way back I did, but just nothing crazy to that experience, just an experience, just something fun that I can again say the energy was different, the energy shifted, and it was that giddy, excited feeling that I got. And then we did a train ride while we were there as well. It's through over the Bourne Bridge, and areas that were just squatchy looking. And so that I started looking up, have there been sightings in Cape Cod? And there definitely have been in Sandwich area. You can look up Sasquatch or Bigfoot sightings in Cape Cod. And there's a documented sighting by two sisters, I believe it was, in Sandwich, and lots of people having their own sightings in Massachusetts and Boston and around those areas, in the thicker wooded areas of those areas. So that's it. I will conclude with that. That's just my experience, my excitement, and I hope to keep having experiences. My husband and I call ourselves Squatchers now. And it's just, for us, it's just so much fun. We've been together for 24 years, and that's how we keep our relationship thriving, is just enjoying life with each other and doing things that are exciting and fun. We get out and go into the woods a lot, and we've promised each other and ourselves that we're going to continue to do that. Every chance that we get, we go and see if we can have some experiences. We're safe about it. I don't encourage people to just go out blindly and start looking. I definitely be safe and make sure that you have your protection and stuff. But yeah, I think if we're not putting ourselves out there, how are we going to have the experiences?
100%. I agree with you 100%. You need to get out there, but also be careful, especially if you're going into remote areas. Have something like a Garmin or something where if you need to press a button, you can, to get help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I was so happy I didn't know. I don't think we had talked about the Cape Cod stuff out in Oregon. That's really cool. But you're right. There are a lot of documented sightings down in that area. I'm just thinking of stuff that I've gotten on the show, and Southeast Massachusetts, even before you get to the Cape, has a ton of stuff. People can go to BigfootSocietyPodcast.com, and there's a sighting map that I'm working on. And you've got like the Bridgewater Triangle down there has a ton of weird stuff and Bigfoot encounters in it. But I did have just a few kind of comments about things you were talking about. There's some incredible stuff that you shared. When you were talking about Long Beach, was that Long Beach, Washington?
Yes.
Okay, cool. You're right. That is definitely an area that has Bigfoot activity. It's come up on the show before in episode 835, where a guy was staying at a coastal house, and he's looking out a window, and pretty much there's a Bigfoot looking in at him, making eye contact, and then it turns and walks away into the forest. That area,
wow.
I've heard a lot of stuff. I mean, that one, and then there's, what is it? Ocean Shores, I think, is the one that gets talked about a little bit more. But yeah, that Long Beach area is definitely squatchy as well. The Oregon Vortex, that's on my list to check out. That's down in Gold Hill, Oregon.
Gold Hill, thank you.
Yep. It's come up once. I was talking to a guy named David Boozer, and that is, let me see here. Hold on. 8. Oh, I'm going to edit all this. It's going to be great. I want to get the number, though. It is episode 902. And yeah, that area, he said, is really weird. It is on my list to go there because I heard it's, if you've ever watched the old Gravity Falls cartoon, it's like that. And big fan of that for sure. A good example of a person being healed that I can think of right off the bat on the show, I would say the episode with Tom Cantrell is really good too, because he was out on an expedition and ran into some pretty heavy healing situations. That's 489. But
was that the one where he went in with a limp and then left feeling like a new person? I know that's the part that I remember.
I feel terrible because it's my own show and I should know. The Tom's one.
That's okay. You interview a lot of people. I totally understand.
Tom's, I think, was more to do with his heart. Someone will know and be in the comments and be like, actually, Jeremiah's episode something or other. So if someone could do that, would be great. But your comment was really interesting where you were having the dream, actually the first dream. So what you saw when you saw the Sasquatch laying on the medical room table, was that similar to what you had seen when you had the sighting earlier?
No, actually, the one that was on the table was a light color. I could see details. I was looking at it. I saw the hands, and the color was more of a lighter brown. I wouldn't say like red, like some have described. This Sasquatch was lighter. And when it said we can be both, it reached down and this is the part I was going to leave out because it was so odd, but it lifted its male part to show me that there was female anatomy below. And again, that dream, coming out of that dream, I thought that was so weird. And at the same time, there was this truth that resonated there for me. It was like, this is true. I don't know if they have both anatomies, but I know that they can shift. It's almost like a shift, like a morphing per se, that they can shift their body to be both. I don't know. It was just such an odd thing. But in that moment, just validating like, wow, that's really amazing. You guys are such amazing creatures. And there was this like, thank you, gratitude feeling there. Again, in both dreams, I never spoke out loud to them. It was just like a mind speak kind of thing. And then because of that, I think that's what for me really locked it in to mind speak to them when I'm out there. And then to hear other people say that is the coolest thing for me about all of this, is to have these feelings or these experiences and then have other people validate them by listening to your podcast and someone say something and I'm like, oh, yes, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm experiencing, or that's exactly what I've felt or thought or what they told me in the dreams. So it's been really cool. It's just, again, it's just been magical for me to have these validations.
Wow. That was going to be next, but man,
sorry.
So no, that's absolutely incredible. So yeah, this is going to be one of those episodes where it's, hey, if you don't want your kids to have knowledge of high school science and stuff, probably not the one for you. Yeah, but I think it's important because there is, doing a quick search, because I'm not a biologist, but that would be something I believe that's considered simultaneous hermaphroditism. And so that's where there's, I believe, they both have, or the creature has both male and female reproductive organs at the same time. That's a thing in nature. I've got some examples here. I just looked up real quick. Garden snails, slugs, some oysters, some clams, some earthworms, leeches, I guess the barred hamlet fish, sponges, barnacles. So it's not a thing where it's not out there. But it's such an interesting dream to have. It really makes you wonder.
It really was. Yeah, it was just one of the things that make you go, And I also didn't mention that we went up again to St. Helens just more recently. It was a weeknight, or a weekend, and I just got the urge to get all cozy, grab some jackets and sleeping bags and pillows and just drive up to St. Helens, because we're a very quick jaunt. It's about a 45-minute drive for us from Vancouver to St. Helens when you're up at the base. And I wanted to go back to our camp spot and we grabbed some snacks, grabbed a coffee, and headed up. And I love that my husband is spontaneous like that. If I say something crazy, he's sure, why not? Let's do it. So it's exciting. And so we did that. We went up there. We got there about 9:00 at night. It's dark. And we rolled the windows down a bit. It's a full moon. It is bright out there. There are no cars up there. As we're driving up there, we did not pass any other cars. We didn't see anybody else. All of the dispersed camping spots are free. They're open. No one's parked in them, which before when we go up, there would be one or two of them at least taken. So I was like, oh, hopefully no one's there. We get up there, our spot's open, we park. And as we're laying there, as we start getting more into the night, we heard an owl, which was really cool. And that's something that my husband and I experienced a lot. We see owls, they'll swoop down and just land on a branch above our head anytime we're out. And I'm saying to the point where we almost expect it now, because it happens so often, where we'll say, we hope we see an owl, and then an owl will appear for us. And it's just really cool. We have so many pictures. If you're on my Facebook, people see I'm always posting pictures of owls. So we heard an owl out there, and then we started hearing gunshots. And they would come in like threes. And I say gunshots because that is exactly what they sounded like. They sounded like somebody was firing off a gun. And we thought it was a little unnerving to be laying out there in the dark in the moonlight and have these gunshots going off. But we had never heard any cars approaching. We never saw any cars go by. And mind you, when we were out there camping, cars were going by out on the main road. And it's a popular area. It's right at the base of St. Helens, as far as like where people will drive up to go up and do their hikes on St. Helens. So cars were going by that area. But this night, we never saw any cars go by. So we were like, that's weird that we're hearing these gunshots. But those gunshots continued until we decided to just go home at 4 a.m. because we could not sleep, because these gunshots would go silent, and then all of a sudden it would just be one, and then it would go silent again, and then there would be three, and then go silent. So it was odd. It was something that I made note of. Okay. And I've heard other people's experiences saying that these tree knocks or whatnot can sound like gunshots. So I made note of that, because we didn't feel like it was someone out there just letting off one round and then waiting 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then letting off another 3 rounds or 4 rounds. So it was just odd the way that they were doing it. So anyway, I wanted to mention that too.
I'm glad you did. And yeah, that kind of behavior doesn't really make sense for the shots to be in groups of 3 like that all the time. That's not,
Right.
I don't think that's
Right.
easily explained away.
No.
You mentioned how you're asking for proof when you go out, which I always think is very interesting when people do that. And you may have heard this. Have you heard on the show what happened when I did this in Oakridge?
I probably did.
Okay, just in case, how we went out to the woods, and it was so wacky. It was cool though. It was really cool. Walked away from the group for a minute, and then I was like, hey, if there's anyone out here, can you make a noise? And then there were like 3 wood knocks, like about probably 30, 40 feet away, like a half a second after I asked it. It was wild. And then
That's
I was
awesome.
like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, maybe that's a coincidence, because we're always trying to explain things away. Like you said, you're trying to let logic take over. So I did it again. I was like, hey, there's something here. Can you make a noise? And the same thing happened. That was wild. And I was like, oh man, part of me wonders what would have happened if I had walked into the woods. Is it a thing where I would have seen something, or would I have disappeared forever? I didn't. I was like, okay, back to the group. But you need to be smart.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I know. I definitely have wanted to wander away at times, and I'm like, no. Yeah. Then your logical brain takes over and say, you're only human. Yeah.
You're talking about the Oregon Vortex, and that's something I didn't know, where it's quiet all the time there, you're saying?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
It was something I had not heard either until we went, and the tour guide was saying, by the way, listen, what can you hear? He's like, you're not hearing any birds. We never hear birds here. Birds do not come into this area. And that was just something that blew my mind. I was like, yeah, why? That is so cool. And then to drive away from it and hear, like I said, maybe a mile away from it, you're hearing the birds again. And making note of that. So definitely when you go, pay attention to that part of it, because to me, that would just blew my mind. I thought, wow. And then the fact that so many people have said that they have not heard birds. And going back to when we were in the woods in Long Beach, and I asked for the sign and saw the footprint, and we weren't hearing any birds and stuff, I made note of that. My friend, she humors me. She loves me. She's, yeah, that's weird. That is interesting. When I had video that I was walking along and taking video, and she's walking ahead of me and stuff, and you do not hear a bird. The next day when we all went out, it was the same time of day, and we played drums, and you're hearing you're hearing crows, you're hearing birds, you're hearing squirrels, and we're out there like singing and playing our drums and stuff, being cuckoos, just having fun. But the forest was alive with sound at the same time of day as the day before, when there was not a sound. So it was just a trip to have that experience too.
That is so cool. It's always fun to hear a story like you and your husband's, where you guys are aware of what's going on, but you have the excitement. You're going out there and you're experiencing things. It's just extremely cool. It's just when we were talking out in Oakridge, and so you guys had traveled all the way down from Washington for that, and you may have mentioned that actually.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was about a 3-hour drive, not far. We've definitely driven further for things and stuff. We like long car rides. So I was like, oh, we're going. This is happening. So yeah, that was so fun. And we went on that night hike that was done, I think it was Saturday night. We didn't come out Friday night. We didn't get there till Saturday. And so Saturday night, we ended up doing that night hike. And Priscilla's husband had dressed up as a Sasquatch, and the kids are all scared. Priscilla had gone ahead of us, and off the top of my head, I cannot think of. I follow him now since I've met him. I follow him, but I'd seen a few things on him. But the blonde guy that has his own show, and he was one of the speakers.
Jason
had
Kenzie.
his own booth out there. Yes, thank you.
Yep, yep.
I'm horrible with names if it's not in front of me. Yeah, Jason Kenzie had led us out on this night walk. So that was just was goofy, but it was fun. And Priscilla's husband came running out and the kids screamed. We all screamed, actually, to be honest.
Really?
To be honest, all of us adults were going, what? But for anybody listening, if you have wanted to experience the Sasquatch Summerfest, I highly recommend it and encourage you to do it because it's just a fun and great group of people. And yeah, we had a blast.
Yeah, that night hike is pretty cool. And a lot of listeners might be like, oh, it's just a night hike. Okay, so the thing is, like, you go across the bridge for the river, and then on the other side of that river, like, it's the woods right there. That's it. And there's a trail, but they have a ton of actual sightings out there. So it's not, they also make it for the kids, or they make it for the kids where there's someone with a costume, but there are actual legitimate sightings that are reported on that road. And I think both times, last year and the year before, or last year and this, there were people that we're experiencing some weird things over there on the other side, outside of the actual night hike. So it's just one of those areas. Yeah, Oakridge is so weird.
Yeah, it's cool. It was just absolutely beautiful to be out there in the woods to every side of you. And the town's neat and the people are neat and stuff, but just the experience to be out that bridge, going across that bridge at night was thrilling, to say the very least. It was the water rushing, and the whole experience was just really fun. And we almost didn't do it because we were tired. I was sunburned. We were chasing anybody that was out there will remember we were all chasing the shade to listen to all the speakers on the stage. Unfortunately, I did end up getting sunburned. So I was like, I'm exhausted. I kind of want to go back. And my husband actually was the one to talk us into staying, and he's, come on, we're out here. When are we going to do it? I'm like, no, you're right. Let's do this. I'm glad we did stay and do it. And yeah, it was just a great experience overall.
That's awesome. It really is a really fun time. And if people can't get there for the festival, you can also go other times of the year, because that's when you can actually go to the Bigfoot Museum near Dairy Queen, which is really cool too. Area 58. But Rebecca, this has been a really fun conversation. I'm glad we were able to chat on the show. I'm going to have your book link as well down in the description so people can check that out. It looks like a pretty good read, so people definitely want to check that out. And I edit all this, so this potentially will be taken out, but is there a way people can contact you if they have questions about what it is you do with energy and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I am the Healing Amethyst on Facebook. That's my page, or even Magnetic Universe, my book page on Facebook, or I'm Prosperous Mama on in Instagram.
Great. Cool. So I will definitely have those as well. But thank you so much for coming on again. It's been a fun one. Hopefully our paths cross again sometime in the future.
Yes, absolutely. This has been just very enjoyable. And thank you for doing what you do and giving people a platform to share their experiences. Because while for me, it was amazing and life-changing and fun, and I say that it brings out the child, giddy, excited part of me, I know for others, they've had some more serious experiences and it wasn't as fun for them. And I hope that everybody can understand that they have the ability to shift the way that they think around these things. And I think that is the biggest overall message that is being brought forward too, is we have the ability to see peace through things rather than violence. And I do believe that's something and I've been told I'm naive. I was actually called naive around that, but that's just the feeling I get, that they do want to teach more peace and love, that you don't judge a book by its cover, because yes, they look like these big, scary, large creatures, but they have more peace and understanding of the way of things than we do, and that they are here to teach us. That's a big thing that's come forward for me, is that they are teachers for us. They know more than we do. We're only scratching the surface. So I'll leave it at that. And thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Rebecca. Also, a quick update from Rebecca. The beach retreat that they went to was not actually at Long Beach, Washington, but it was Lincoln City, Oregon. So just wanted to throw that out there so that people in Lincoln City know and also people in Long Beach know. But thanks for listening, guys. Before we wrap this episode, I want to say something directly to a very specific group of listeners. If you're in the military, any branch or forces, and if you've seen something that no one can explain, or if you're a national park ranger or forestry worker who's been told to stay quiet, or if you're a pilot who's seen something strange down on the ground, or if you're with the FBI, a federal agency, or working intelligence, and you stumbled upon something you're not allowed to talk about, and if you're a firefighter, paramedic, or search and rescue responder who's heard screams or found tracks that didn't make sense, if you're in the logging industry, on a remote oil field, or a trucker with government contracts, and you've had something happen that you've never told a soul, and if you're a biologist, a wildlife specialist, or a field researcher under contract who has found evidence you're not allowed to report, if you're a pastor, a missionary, or someone on a spiritual retreat, and you saw something that shook your faith, or if you work in the shadows, CIA, NSA, or anything with clearance, and you've seen what the public hasn't, then I want to talk to you. Even if it's anonymous, you can reach me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. The world needs to hear what you've been forced to carry alone, and you're not alone. You've got the story. We've got the mic. See you in the woods. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. Every encounter we share reminds us that the world is bigger and stranger than we think, and that the truth is often hiding just beyond the tree line. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode, and share this with a friend who's into mysteries, monsters, or the unexplained. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast, please follow the show there and leave us a 5-star positive review, because all that helps more people discover the show. And remember, if you or someone you know has had a Bigfoot sighting, please, I'd love to hear from you. So email me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com and let's start the conversation. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, check out our membership community over at www.bigfootsocietypodcast.com. And that's where you can hear tomorrow's episode today, early and ad-free, and members-only episodes every week. Also, it's a place to connect with other people that are into the Bigfoot subject as much as you are. Thanks again for following along with the Bigfoot Society. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and never stop asking what else might be out there. And see you in the woods.